Dive. It's live Friday night, 7 games. Adam Shaw, Dave Lockram. What's happening, big fella? How we doing today?
Doing pretty good. This is, I think, easily the craziest slate of the season so far.
You think so?
Yeah,
All right, that's fair enough.
you not?
Uh, I don't know. I guess so. If you say so, why not? Yeah, I think it's pretty wild. Um, I don't know. You and I had an hour-long podcast that we put out last night around like 1 a.m. or midnight. By the way, anybody watching that doesn't check out the podcast each day should definitely do so. I mean, it's preliminary, but we dive pretty deep before even having a lot of the information. So, for those of you driving to work or getting ready or getting the kids ready for school or whatever, you pop in the AirPods and go to work. I'll ask you this much though, Adam. What about this slate specifically has you saying it's the craziest of the season?
So we have the Knicks who don't have a lineup. They've basically said that they are considering changing their lineup up for this game. They're considering not starting Burke or Cantor, but that's just kind of, it might happen. It might not. They might start one. They might start neither. So we have no idea what really to do with the Knicks. We have Bradley.
Cantor is dude. Why is he always the black sheep? Always, like Cantor always gets the raw deal if a team's struggling. Say, oh, it must be Cantor's
Well, I
fault.
think it's just for this game with Golden State.
I know, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I know. I'm just saying it always, and it wouldn't be the most ridiculous move to take a 7-footer and put him on the bench, but still, you know what I mean. It's
yeah.
always seems like Cantor gets the raw
Yeah.
deal.
And then we
Go
have
ahead.
Bradley Beal missing shoot around today, which makes a huge impact on the Wizards in general, but specifically on John Wall. I think he's either one of the best plays on the slate or he's someone that I would barely have if I knew what Beal was going to do.
Yeah, that's a big thing as well. And then of course no Harden, but we knew that from the beginning. So
And then and Jimmy Butler and Wiggins are both questionable.
right, that's big too. So a lot of this information we're not going to have. It's like, okay, now we have to consider Karl Anthony Towns again, who is one of he has developed into one of the softest players in the league. It's very rare that you see someone of his caliber go downhill as he gets older.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me tweet this out. Get the deep dive going here for anyone that isn't already watching. We go. All right. So we'll jump in 7 games here. Start with Chicago and Charlotte. It's a bad Chicago team. We mentioned on this morning's podcast that I mean the totals that we're seeing are just outrageously high. Some of them have come down a little bit, but you still have 3 of them above 232. You only have 1 of them above 222. I mean, now a low total is like in the 2 teens, right? 215, 210. Like that is a low total by today's standards. It's really something else. This one in Charlotte's 226.5. Charlotte by 10 points. We've said many times you and I don't put a whole lot of stock into blowouts, although I do think it's possible here. But when you have a guy like Kemba Walker, Adam, who is producing a 32 or 33% usage rate, an assist rate near 30%. Unsurprisingly, leads the league with 16.8 pick and roll possessions per game as a ball handler. That's ridiculous if you're not really familiar with the amount of possessions. You're getting 35 minutes a game. There's no real other facilitator or ball handler on this team that can get the job done, right? I mean, Malik Monk, Lamb, these guys aren't passers. Nick Batum is afraid to touch the basketball. MKG, Marvin Williams, like none of those guys really. I'm sure we could pull 1 or 2 out here that once in a while can get it going, but it's really Kemba Walker. Now, I will just this disclaimer that the point guard position is very deep and would grow even deeper if Bradley Beal is out. But I know you'll agree with me that there's no way we can ignore Kemba Walker at home here against a who's he going to be? Cameron Payne and Ryan Arcidiacono? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, it's just such a really good spot for Kemba here. He's still reasonably priced. You're talking about someone that has a 30+% usage rate and a 30.5% expected assist percentage so far this season in a spot against the Chicago team that really sucks defensively. So I don't think there's anything not to like about Kemba. Should play 36 to 38 minutes if this game stays competitive. And Charlotte hasn't been that good this year, so I don't. I mean, they just lost to the Chicago team in Chicago the last time they played. So I'm not factoring in blowout at all. Not that I normally do anyway, but just a really good spot for Kemba. He's my favorite point guard in his price range. If we get news that Beal's going to play, we probably won't get that news. But either way, I think he's a really good play. And then beyond him, though, you have some cheap guys on Charlotte that are interesting. With Jeremy Lamb being less than 5K, I think someone that I'm pretty comfortable projecting for 28 to 30 minutes. Marvin Williams got some minutes at the 5 when these two teams played a couple of days ago.
What
If you
about
get
our favorite? What about our favorite player?
Batum,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the minutes are going to be there. What he does with them, I have absolutely no idea. But I mean Marvin Williams at like 4,100 or 4,300, wherever he's at, are probably playing around 30 minutes against this team. I think that outside of Kemba, you can also go to some of the Charlotte value. You mentioned Malik Monk even as a guy that I think you can go to as well. So where I don't have Kemba, I think just kind of mixing in some of these cheap guys and hoping that you get the right one that has a big game, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. Clairvoyant says way better than RG Live here. Serious talk here. Yeah, my dude, I appreciate that. Much love, buddy. Spread the word. For real, spread the word. Hit us with a like as well if you like what we're producing here. You like what we're doing. And you know, you just simply like the fact that we try to give you as much information as humanly possible in the matter of an hour. The like button, of course, helps us out as well. But dude, when it comes to Batum, it's really simple. He he's out there for 35 plus minutes a game, in close games. He's just he doesn't want to touch the ball. It's ridiculous. And there are going to be games, and this for a fact, there are going to be games where Nicholas Batum puts up 45, 50 fantasy points. It's going to happen. This is not a Bulls team that is going to defend spot up shooting well. Nicholas Batum will have one of those games where he knocks down 6 3-pointers, right? And where he dishes out 5 assists, scores 23 points, and grabs 6 rebounds with a handful of steals. It will happen. When will it happen? I don't know. But if you are playing a lot of lineups, I think Nicholas Batum is someone worth sprinkling in. I had a DM yesterday. It's actually a very complimentary one of our show in terms of the information we provide. But I'll recommend it that we do more of focusing in on specific players that we like, more than just like throwing out a million players. And we've always kind of lived by that. Try to take a stand. If I like Oladipo, I'm gonna. And if he sucks, he sucks. I'm wrong. But if I like Oladipo, I think I'm gonna tell you I really like him. If you like Giannis, I mean, hell, you said you were projecting him for 74. That's a ballsy stance. But I agree that we'll try and narrow things down. But however, when you do have people playing 150 lineups, Adam, we do still have to point out that, like, hey, a guy like this, like Batum or like Lamb, not a bad idea to get a little bit of exposure in there because of the minutes, because of the price point, and because when you're playing that minutes, sometimes you can fall into a big game. I think the same even for a guy like Justin Holiday because he's playing so many minutes, but not core or even secondary plays either.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that slate's broken out, I think I'll be even lower on Batum than I would have otherwise, just because there is so much value at cheaper price tags that most likely is going to produce at just as good of a per minute clip as Batum.
Agree. What is the name of the pod? It's the early bird. It's posted on YouTube here as well. And
you can also find that show on iTunes.
On iTunes as well. That's what I would do. Just subscribe to it and have it right there every day. So there you go. But yeah, man, we appreciate all you guys for sure. That's why we dig deep to get all the information we can. I think it's a pretty decent game, though, on both sides, Adam. A lot of them are secondary or tertiary plays. That's just the case for me. Whether it be Batum, I think you're a little bit higher on Lamb than I am, but it's not that he's a bad play because he can get hot. But I think the one kind of core thing here, outside of Walker, you're relying on these guys to have that game where they do get hot because none of them are particularly reliable. Wendell Carter Jr., though, if you're playing at the 5 on a team that already doesn't have good rebounding, like there aren't many good rebounders on this team, especially not in the front court. And then you lose Bobby Portis, Wendell Carter. Did we even talk about Jabari Parker yet? If you did, I apologize.
No, we didn't talk about the Bulls at all.
Okay, yeah. Wendell Carter Jr., you know what you get with him. Talk to me about Parker, though, because this guy, despite his peripherals being lacking, you're still looking at a 26% usage rate and someone that could play 30-plus minutes tonight.
Yeah, it sounds like, per people in Slack, it sounds like they're starting Chandler Hutchison at the 4, which would mean Parker still comes off the bench. But I already, with the injuries that this team has, I already had Hutchison projected for like 22 minutes. I'd be surprised if you get more than like 26 out of him. So I still think you see at least 32 minutes for Jabari Parker here. And at a $5,500 price tag, you're looking at a guy with, a 25 to 26% usage rate. He gets, some assists, some rebounds. Even if I cut him back to 32 minutes, I still have him projected for like 35 DraftKings points. So I still think he's a really, really good play in that lower mid range. You mentioned Wendell Carter, who really is going to have no choice but to play, 30 to 32 minutes here against Cody Zeller. He hasn't really produced at all yet in the NBA, but at his price tag with the minutes that he's, locked into in this spot, I still think he's a really good value play, just like he has been the last couple of slates. Cameron Payne's another good one. I mean, should play 32 minutes here, 30 to 32. And who knows how efficient he'll be, but the minutes should be there. We just saw him go for 40 against Charlotte his last time out. I do think there are pivots in that price range in tournaments that we'll talk about that are, pretty similarly projected to Payne, but I like him. And then Zach LaVine obviously should play 37, 38 minutes here. He's got a 33% usage rate this year. He's going to shoot a ton. There's a lot to like from the Chicago side.
Yeah, I think so too. Ring room, Adam, my man, same sweatshirt all week. Get it done. Hey,
Yeah.
when you work from home, things can get rough, dude. I mean, I'm just telling you. Like,
Yeah.
I've gone. There have been times where I forgot to shave for quite a while, and then I have an event to go to, and like I literally just kill my razor, in one shot. And
Yeah,
and I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not even talking about disposable razors, right? I'm talking about decent ones that you just run through them. It's Dollar Shave Club for me now, man. There's a shameless plug that has nothing to do with it, but I mean, it's I shave far less now that I work from home. I think you would agree.
Yeah. Well, and now it's like it's finally gotten cold too, so it's just I live in hoodies, and it just happens to be the same one.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, I agree on the Chicago side. Parker, like, look, with Hutchison, are you really like he's starting, but do you really have much interest in a guy that even starting is probably not going to do much in terms of usage at all?
Right. I mean, not a ton. Like he's 3,500. That's where it's appealing.
Of course.
If I project him for 26 minutes, I have him at like 19 DraftKings points. If I project him for a little bit less, obviously I have him at a little bit less. So it's sort of play for me. It is some, I don't know, 3 to 5% of in tournaments.
Yeah. I agree. A couple of cheaper guys that I like more. Let's keep it moving though. Dallas and Toronto. I don't really know where to start here. Let's start. I'm gonna throw you for a loop a little bit. Let's start with the Toronto side and talk about Jonas Valanciunas for a minute. He hasn't played more than 20 minutes this season, but he's also played a bunch of front courts that just like aren't that big. I wonder if there was ever a time where he plays 25 minutes, this could be the spot. He's a ridiculous per minute producer. On a slate like this where there is value, I'm not saying you have to go there, but whenever I think Joval is in a spot where he can put up big numbers, I'm going to let you know because Joval always has tournament winning upside. If he gets 25, 27 minutes potentially, again, it's probably a rarity. We still don't necessarily know how Nick Nurse is running these rotations going forward, but his per minute production is just through the roof, and it going up against DeAndre Jordan could make things interesting here. Where do you stand on the Toronto side of the ball?
Right now I have Valanciunas projected for 28 to 30 minutes.
My man, look at that. My man.
I just can't figure out, and I don't feel like super comfortable with it, obviously.
No.
I can't really figure out what else Toronto can do with OG out because basically this season they had been running OG and Siakam at the 4, and then Valanciunas and Ibaka at the 5. We saw Ibaka play a bunch of minutes at the 4 against Minnesota, against that bigger front court. Now I expect he has to play a bunch there just because of OG being out. I mean, you can project Siakam for like 28 minutes and then cut J-Val back to 26. That's probably what I would do for like cash projections, because I don't necessarily want in cash games Valanciunas to be projected for as many points as I have. But in tournaments, like I kind of like projecting Siakam for 24 to 26 minutes and Valanciunas for 26 to 28, or sorry, 28 to 30, and then getting 34 to 36 for Ibaka at a combination of center and power forward. And Jordan's just, I think, the perfect guy to project Valanciunas to play bigger minutes against, because he's not going to pull him away from the basket at all. He's not going to force him to chase him out to the 3-point line. It's just a spot where I think Valanciunas should not have trouble staying on the floor, and the injuries to this Toronto team make it easier to project that. So I'll have a pretty good amount of Valanciunas in tournaments, and the same goes for Serge Ibaka, because I just don't see how he doesn't play big minutes here at a $5,200 price tag either.
No, exactly. But again, it just comes down to like, is Nurse going to run this rotation? Is he going to match? Is he going to play the matchups, or is it basically like, hey, I'm not playing Joval more than 20 minutes this season? Because we know with Dwayne Casey that there were times where, in a good spot, especially if he got Dwayne Casey used to say, if our bigs get off to a bad start and they're not shooting well and they're not hustling, I'm yanking them. And he would.
Right.
But we don't necessarily know. He hasn't played more than 20 minutes. But if there was a time for him to play 25 plus minutes, tonight is the night.
Yeah, exactly. It's just basically the only way he doesn't play big minutes is if Siakam plays huge minutes, or
exactly.
I guess if they run like CJ Miles 26 minutes or something.
Yeah, and the Turtle's no longer there, so
right.
Jakob Poeltl, for anyone wondering. Yeah, so there's not really much else. It's not like you're going to get Greg Monroe coming out and playing 20 minutes either. I don't really have anybody else from the rest of this Toronto team. Maybe you do. Yes, no. You already mentioned Ibaka.
Yeah, I do like Siakam as a value play at 3,900. I think he's pretty much locked into at least 24 to 26 minutes.
Yeah, Lowry's been super consistent too, and this is a good spot for him. It's just point guard's really deep.
Yeah, and the same goes for Leonard. Obviously he's a good play.
Right.
It's just that he's 9,300 on a slate where you have a lot of guys that are in phenomenal spots at either a little bit higher price tag or a little bit lower.
For sure. On the other side, Luka Doncic. I mean, the guy's been very good this year as a rookie. He's the jack of all trades, but he's going to see some Kawhi Leonard treatment. That could get ugly. Kyle Lowry's not necessarily a slouch as a defender. Going to see Dennis Smith. They'll see a bunch of him. I don't think it would be crazy to assume that Smith could see additional work here with Doncic, taken out of the game, assuming Kawhi Leonard sees a whole lot of him, which I don't know why he wouldn't. Harrison Barnes is going to have his minutes limited. He's not a guy that you're too worried about in terms of a scoring ball handling wing. So I think this will be a spot where Doncic, to me, it's just I don't necessarily want to go there. Plus, DraftKings inexplicably moved him back to only point guard after one game of having shooting guard, small forward eligibility where he should be.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I have Jordan, Doncic, and Smith projected as like slightly valuable, like slightly above their price tags, but on this slate, I don't think slightly above their price tags gets it done in a matchup with Toronto. So I don't expect to really have much from this Dallas team.
Yeah, me neither. Toronto is a solid defensive team, and they were a solid defensive team before adding Kawhi Leonard. So,
yep.
Losing DeRozan doesn't make you a worse defensive team either. So yeah, not necessarily one that I like to target. They have a top 10 defensive rating this year. I actually expect that to improve. And they don't play at the quickest pace. So, I don't have a problem going away from that. Let's move on if you're okay with that. Golden State, New York Knicks. You had mentioned a potential lineup change here from Fizdale. It's interesting because, oh, by the way, I'm surprised we didn't hear much. Did you see any Stephen Curry, Madison Square Garden narrative? I haven't been on Twitter much today.
I haven't paid attention to anybody else today.
Way to go. I don't think there has been much, which is funny because that for a couple years that was a thing. until people realized that it was 2 games that he had really big games there, and that doesn't really constitute a trend. But let's I oddly enough just don't really have much from this game. Things could certainly change based on what Fizdale decides to do. But as of now, I'm just playing a wait and see approach. I know I'm not paying for Enes Kanter. Um, I know that Damian Dotson is coming off 2 big games, and I don't really feel like chasing that. Maybe you're different than I am, but right now that's where I stand.
Yeah, I mean, so this one right now is just an absolute guessing game. And so the way that I'm approaching it is I took my best guess at who's going to play how many minutes and everything. And I'm going to go with those projections at least until something changes that. But I'm also going to pretty strictly cap my exposure to these guys because it's not a spot where I think like where I'm super confident and I want to take a huge stand. The things that, kind of stand out for me though are that I think Ntilikina plays in the mid 30s here because if Fizdale's intention is to get a lineup out there that can switch onto all these, athletic guys for Golden State, that just to me signifies that Ntilikina is going to be a huge key to that. The potential starting lineup that was specifically named would have had Ntilikina at point guard. So I think that he plays, pretty big minutes. What he does with them is anyone's guess, but at 4,100, I think that can be pretty valuable. Hardaway, I have projected as the highest scoring Nick because that's pretty safe. But then Vonleh, I think I'll have some of because if I project him for like 26 minutes, I get him at about a little over 6x on DraftKings. Dotson, I have projected for 32 minutes if he starts. And then the one guy that I'm certainly capping exposure, but if I think there's a potential that we get a starting lineup with Noah Vonleh at center, but we don't get confirmation on if Kanter's coming off the bench or if he's going to DNP. And if Vonleh starts at center and Kanter just doesn't play, you end up getting Mitchell Robinson at 3,100, probably playing like 22 minutes. So unless we get confirmation that Vonleh and Kanter are both playing, I'm going to just play like a very small percentage of Mitchell Robinson and hope for the best at a minimum price tag. But basically, it's that there are good value plays on the Knicks. Just right now, I have no confidence in figuring out which one they are.
Exactly. The one thing I love about Ntilikina is he's such a lights out shooter. Oh God, what a dreadful shooter this man is. It's not good. But if he's out there, in an up tempo game, you should be able to get something from him. If he starts at the point, then like you said, then the conversation changes entirely. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. Ntilikina, look, he's a good defensive player. It would be smart to put him out there. Look, do I expect his services to shut down Stephen Curry? Of course not. By the way, Curry leads the league in catch and shoot points this year as well. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
He's finally living up to that DraftKings position.
Yeah, right. But when it comes to Ntilikina, if you're getting the start, and obviously this would be a defensive move, and you play 30+ minutes, like you said, what he does with those minutes is still yet to be seen. But at that price point, it would put him in play.
One thing that was interesting to me is if you go back and look since the start of last year, in the minutes he's played without any of Kanter, Porzingis, or Burke on the floor, he does have a 23% assist percentage, which it's not a huge sample size. I don't remember exactly how big it was, but it's not a huge sample size. But it is at least worth mentioning that he potentially could facilitate a little bit more.
Anyone for Golden State?
Not really. Not that I'm prioritizing. It's just kind of like Thompson's price and Green's price, I think, are both okay. I just can't see. I can't get to 10,200 on Curry for on this slate with all the point guard depth and the high upside guys that you have. And the same kind of goes for Kevin Durant, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think Durant's a little bit more palatable, where there's a little bit bigger difference between him and Giannis in price. But on DraftKings, at least, I'm not prioritizing anyone here. I would think that Green and Clay are the guys that I have the most of, but I probably won't have a lot of.
Yeah, for sure. Now it's just waiting on the starting lineups. We know Ntilikina is expected to start at the point, and if that's the case, then we can start making decisions. That, however, does not mean that he's going to produce big numbers because it's Frank Ntilikina. Minnesota and Milwaukee. Here's a fun one. This is one of the reasons you said this slate is pretty wild, and I do not disagree. We are still waiting on Jimmy Butler, who is dealing with an illness. interesting, which is funny too because Butler has played through illnesses before, and he's had some of the worst games ever, unlike Dwayne Wade. However, uh, is Jimmy Butler sick, or is he just sick of the Timberwolves? I think
Right.
that's one of the questions to ask. And then Andrew Wiggins, with that quad injury, is questionable to play too. I mean, let's just hypothetically say that both Wiggins and Butler missed this game. Then it forces our hand, and we have to look at Cat, who has just been a colossal disappointment, has developed really into one of the most passive and softest players in basketball. You know what? You can disagree with me all you want, but you know it's true. Anyone with his physical gifts, with his athleticism, with his intangibles, should not be going out there and shooting 5 for 17 with 14 points across 35 minutes. You know, that's just, he has more. I mean, look at his point totals: 8, 12. He had a 31-point game. That was nice. 17, 14. It's just inexcusable, man. If those two guys are out, he needs to step up, and really, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Derrick Rose take more of an assertive leadership role than Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so if one of Butler or Wiggins misses, I think that the minutes projections are basically the same. I think you'll see around 35, around 27 minutes for Josh Okogie, around 32 for Derrick Rose, Teague getting 30 to 32, whichever one plays of Butler or Wiggins playing around 37. So you'll still get the value from like Rose and Okogie, but outside of that, everything basically will be minutes wise like status quo. I think Towns' price tag is still low enough where I think he's a good play. If they both miss, it gets really interesting because then you obviously get the usage bump even more for Towns. But I think that you'll get possibly like 28 minutes from a minimum priced Anthony Tolliver, which, I mean, it's Anthony Tolliver, but $3,000 is $3,000. So if they both miss, I think Tolliver gets a boost as a value play. You still would get big minutes from Rose and from Okogie. You get a little bit of a boost, I think, for Jeff Teague. So it's still waiting on lineups, but I think that regardless, unless both Butler and Wiggins play, you can go to Rose and Okogie for value, and Towns is a good play.
Yeah, agree with you on that. I played 100% Okogie the other day, which is, a little risky, but I don't mind doing it when you're talking about a Minnesota team where Thibodeau is willing to dole out some sizable minutes. Okogie played the entire first quarter and then didn't come in until like 3 minutes left in the second, but still at 27 minutes, dude, he started off 0 for 8 from the field and still finished with a double-double. This dude is not afraid to chuck, Adam, and I love that. I mean, first of all, you're talking about 44 or what is he, $4,100 on DraftKings. If Butler and Wiggins are out, he becomes a very, very solid value play. Like he went out there, shot 0 for 7, came back in the second half and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this because because Towns isn't gonna do it, right?
Right.
Towns isn't gonna shoot. I'll be that dude, and that's okay with me. That's absolutely okay with me. I at 4,100." He would become actually one of my favorite value plays if these guys are out. Even if he starts again and say Wiggins plays and Butler's out, I'm still on board. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And obviously Rose, with Wiggins and Butler off the court, Rose has a 31% usage rate and 1.22 fantasy points per minute this year. I like that. Karl Anthony Towns, meanwhile, 28.5% usage. This game, I think you would agree that the news here is kind of that is the deciding factor on kind of where you go with this slate, all in all.
Yeah, definitely one of the games where it's going to make a huge impact.
What about the Milwaukee side? Giannis Antetokounmpo is a moderately decent basketball player. Leads the league in usage. Leads the league in points in the paint. He has a 23% total rebounding rate, a 34% assist rate. How about this? 44 or 55 almost percent of his field goal attempts are within 3 feet of the basket. He's drawn the third most fouls in the league. I could keep going. Like, this Timberwolves team is terrible at protecting the rim. Towns. Last year they ranked bottom 10 in fast break points and second chance points allowed. Giannis ranked top 5 in both. Like, how in the world do you guard him in transition or even in the half court around the rim? I just see no chance of stopping him.
Yeah, and then also the thing, I think you posted it on Twitter today, about how many wide open shots the
Oh
Milwaukee
yeah.
Bucks are getting. And that's something that I found interesting because I've been looking at expected assist percentage instead of actual. And Giannis, I have projected to see a pretty big drop from his current assist percentage to where you would expect him. But the fact that he pulls defenders in and gets guys such wide open looks means that they should be converting, higher than expectations. So, I still haven't projected for around, a 30+% assist percentage. So tons of usage, tons of everything across the board. I only have him projected for 70 points in my tournament projections tonight. So not quite a Sixers game, but still obviously love Giannis here.
Yeah, absolutely. James P said Okoji got 4 shots in 5 seconds, putting up missing, basically grabbing boards and missing them, misleading shot attempts. No, that's perfectly reasonable. But also keep in mind that if you're without Wiggins and you're without Butler, he's still going to take shots. So just take away 4 of those shots. You're still looking at 10 across 26 minutes. And the rebounding was pretty solid. And I just think the kid's got talent. So if Wiggins and Butler are both out, you're still talking about a guy that's going to take 10 plus shots. I don't see how he wouldn't.
The thing that I like about Okoji is that not only is he not afraid to shoot, but I'm not even projecting him for like a monster usage rate or anything, but he has a 13.8% total rebounding percentage and a 9.2% expected assist percentage this year. So It's not like he's one of these guys that's going out there and shooting and literally nothing else on the floor. And he's still cheap enough with enough minutes locked in as long as at least one of Butler or Wiggins sit, that I'm pretty comfortable going there from a floor and the ceiling standpoint.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Kid played hard though. Like it's funny too, because we could say, yeah, well, he grabbed those offensive boards and kept chucking them up on single possessions there or continued possessions. But I like knowing that a guy's going to do. Towns ain't going to do that. If you're chasing down your own rebounds, that's something that also to me is a benefit. So good point there, James. I'm glad you brought that up. But if those guys are out, I still wouldn't be too concerned about that at all. Yeah, the tweet that I posted today, by the way, I know a lot of people that aren't like statistical nerds don't really give a shit about this stuff, but I definitely like this stuff, so I'm gonna keep tweeting it out there. And if you like statistical shit, you can follow me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D, and this fella at Ship My Money DFS. But the tweet it said, "This is what having Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor does for his teammates. Here are the leaders for most wide open 3-point attempts this season. Wide open on NBA.com is constituted by the defender being 6 or more feet away. Brook Lopez, Malcolm Brogdon, and Eric Bledsoe are all in the top 10 in the league on wide open 3-point attempts per game. Lopez at 6.8, Brogdon at 4, Bledsoe at 4. That's ridiculous, Adam. And there's no doubt in anyone's mind that it is almost entirely due to Giannis Antetokounmpo taking so much attention away from the rest of this team."
Yeah, absolutely. It takes so many guys to stop him from just dunking the ball every possession. Like, how are you not going to give up wide open looks?
Yeah, pretty much. Brogdon getting the minutes, so I think that's a pretty decent spot for him, and everything else you had already mentioned. So let's keep it moving, and we'll wait for Minnesota news. As it breaks, we will let you know. And of course, if any of this happens while the show's happening, we'll circle back and make sure to hit on that. But you'll also have Live Before Lock coming up with Chris and Eddie, so they'll be able to give you any information that we happen to be off by then. Hornets, we have that starting lineup: Walker, Lamb, Batum, Williams, Zeller. So Zeller remains in the starting lineup. Houston and the Clippers. Talk to me about Chris Paul. No Harden.
Since the start of last season, without Harden on the floor, you have a 31.3% usage rate for Chris Paul, over a 53% assist percentage, averaging 1.6 DraftKings points per minute, and should be locked into about 36 minutes here against the Clippers. So, one of my favorite plays on the slate. It's going to be really hard for me to get away from him, I think. If we get Bradley Beal news that he's out, it would downgrade Paul slightly for me just because of how much I think that impacts Wall. But I still think going with like Paul and Wall together is a really, really good play. So overall, it's absolutely love Chris Paul here. I love the Rockets in general. I have on DraftKings, I have 5 different guys on Houston projected for greater than 6 times their salary.
Yeah, definitely. Ricardo says 6 feet is nothing. LOL. Well, it's NBA.com's largest. It goes by 2 or less feet, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, and 6 plus. So take that up with NBA.com. But having 6 plus feet on a 3-pointer that's a lot of space.
An NBA player can probably shoot that like 5 different times.
Right.
Before.
Yeah. That's pretty wide open in NBA terms. But I guess we all have different opinions of wide open. NBA.com 6 plus feet. Chris Paul, Michael Carter Williams is not going to do anything but stand around. We don't have a starting lineup here yet, correct?
Not that I've seen.
So if he were to start at small forward and get yanked after 3.5 minutes for Melo, it's fine. Unless he's handling the ball, Carter Williams is useless. At least with somebody like Gerald Green, that since the start of last season with Harden off the court, he has a 22% usage rate. He doesn't have a high floor, but I at least know that he can shoot 3-pointers, which is what you need to do as a member of the Rockets. Carter Williams can't shoot. Green can. So, he comes out here. He played 28 minutes against Utah. I project him for similar run today. What are your thoughts on guys like Gerald Green and Carmelo Anthony with James Harden out?
I like them a lot. I have Green projected for 28 minutes again. Have him projected for about a 22% usage rate, about 25 DraftKings points, which is, it easily gets it done at that price tag. Carmelo, I like at, 4,900. I have him projected for 35 to 37 minutes, an increase in usage as well without, playing any minutes alongside Harden. I like both of those guys. I also like Eric Gordon. He's going to get about 10 to 12 minutes of point guard duties when Chris Paul goes to the bench, in addition to playing big minutes alongside of him. And when he played last season without Paul or Harden on the floor, you just saw a monster increase in usage percentage and in assist percentage. So I think those 10 to 12 minutes become really, really valuable here. The only guy that I actually downgraded a little bit is Clint Capella, and I still like him just because, at least on DraftKings, he's so cheap. He's 6,700. With Chris Paul on the floor without James Harden since last year, Capella's averaged 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. With Harden on and Paul off, he's averaged 1.3. So I did downgrade him a little bit from where I had him projected last game, but that still makes him a very strong play on DraftKings at 6,700.
Yeah, I think so too. So I guess Clint Capella, you had mentioned the stats you just did now and on yesterday's podcast. As long as he has a good point guard, a good ball handling point guard with facilitating capabilities and good court vision, I'm not worried about him. So that's fine. What were you going to say?
No, I was nodding. I was agreeing.
Oh, okay. But as you mentioned, you prefer it to be Harden. Okay. On the other side, Montrezl Harrell is very interesting. I accidentally wrote, I got to the bottom of today's article and my mind started to melt. And I wrote the entire write-up against Washington. And I spent so much time on it. Like, dude, looking into what pace they play at with Mahimi on the court or at the 5 compared to Markieff Morris and Jason Smith, and how this is a perfect spot for Montrezl Harrell because they'll go small. And then 2 people pointed like, hey, Laffy, he's not playing Washington. So all that research went to waste, but it really didn't, because Houston isn't not going to play big at the 5, can't really play big at the 5 anyway. So it's probably still a spot where Harrell, who's producing like 1.3 fantasy points per minute this season, could still put up relatively decent numbers at 4,600.
Yeah, absolutely. And I only have him projected for 24 minutes, and still, he's a point per minute plus guy. I have him projected for about 28 points. He should play big minutes here, and he does have the potential to play even more minutes if the game doesn't close small. I intentionally kind of underprojected him a little bit just so that he doesn't, with all the value on the slate, I didn't want him just ending up in like every lineup that I make. But yeah, I mean, we just saw him play a bunch of minutes against this Houston front court last time. He played 24 minutes last game against the Pelicans, and that's with them closing with Gallinari and Harris and Williams on the floor. So the minutes are certainly going to be there. The price tag hasn't really moved. I obviously expect him to be much more popular than he was when he faced Houston
Uh-oh, man down.
Are you telling me I lost Adam again?
I'm telling you lost Adam again.
Adam. You son of a bitch, man. Ah, God. You know what? It's his internet. I've been begging him to go onto his damn roof or something. Like just figure the shit out, bro. It's 2018. I love you to death, but come on now. Come on. All right, here comes Josh to the rescue.
What are we
again.
talking about?
Houston and the Clippers. We already got into Harrell how it's a pretty, and how I accidentally wrote him up against Washington and spent a ton of time on research. But
okay.
Now we pretty much covered this game in full. Gerald Green in a good spot. Melo, interesting if he gets like 33 or so minutes. I don't expect 39 minutes again.
No.
But he should still get some run usage around 22% or so. I obviously hate MCW as I always do. And then obviously Chris Paul is in play. And then I think that's, and Clint Capella as well. It's a pretty solid game from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of it actually. Melo, unfortunately. A little bit of MCW, but I play only on FanDuel, and I think he's a different kind of play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Oh, here comes. He's
No, when Adam says "be right back,"
I know. I'm closing this show.
That's like I'll be there tomorrow for tomorrow's show.
Don't worry, they brought in Mariano Rivera, buddy. I'm here.
Right. Marcos goes, is he using his neighbor's internet?
That would make more sense.
Jordan says he's borrowing someone else's Wi-Fi. That would be the greatest if yeah.
It would make a ton of sense.
Ricardo, ship my new router, DFS. Keep these coming, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, just roast his internet.
Maybe the hoodie. New router. DFS.
Maybe the hoodie imploded him.
Oh, dude, that is one of the best comments I have seen in a really, really long time.
Ricardo wins the day.
He does. Malone, Labe, Adam's still using AOL 56K. Yeah, dial. You remember when you'd go to go to make a phone call with dial up and it did, and all in your ear and you go deaf from it.
It was the worst.
But it
Ship
was
my new router, DFS.
Ricardo definitely wins YouTube chat today. I mean, my God, that was brilliant.
Fantastic.
At this point, how are you not tuning into the deeper dive? Even if it's just for Adam to drop once a show and everyone to rip on him. This is too good, man. Ship my router, DFS. You know what? We should make a bet where he has to change his handle to that for a couple weeks if he loses. Like if he drops off on the next show, he has to change it to ship my new router, DFS.
I completely agree. This is happening.
Yeah,
it's the only way he's allowed back on a show.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
We steer this ship.
What's up?
We steer this ship. He has to change it if he does it again.
Exactly.
He's got nobody else to complain to.
Yeah. Right.
Is this where I mentioned that I only have like 3% Chris Paul tonight?
You can. I don't think it's the craziest thing because, dude, if Beal's out, that makes it even easier to say that, you're not playing as much Beal, but or I'm sorry, not as much Paul. I don't like some slates it'd be like, if you don't play Paul, you're an idiot. On this slate, it's like, if you don't play Paul, you could certainly be in a lot of trouble, but I wouldn't call you an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I can't get to him without making like really ridiculous tweaks to my projections. I have him way higher than I would have ever had him, and I still don't get him. So at that point, I just have to wash my hands of it and say, like, I'm going to live or die on this hill.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know what? It's not the worst hill to die on. Like, you're still talking about a really amazing player when Harden is out, but it's also someone like it's not like Chris Paul can't fail here either. Like he can fail here.
Yeah.
And by fail, and keep in mind, by fail, I mean give you 45. And that's not what you don't want that at his price point. So no, I mean I'm glad you brought it up. It's valid. Let's talk about the Pelicans in Brooklyn. Enough Adam Router talk.
Yeah.
But it is my God, it is really something, isn't it? And then and the best part is the best part is that it happened. Not only does it happen every show, but it's not like he can just hop back on. It's like right. It's like going upstairs, unplugging the router, plugging it back in, waiting for it to restart, restarting the computer.
He's got to do the equivalent of like taking the cartridge out and blowing in it.
Right. Right. Oh man. Watch porn on your iPhone, man. You don't need to do it on the computer.
Yeah,
anyway, right. I mean, it's 2018. Pelicans in Brooklyn. Let me ask you that.
Okay.
Anthony Davis is averaging, and I already talked about Giannis's ridiculous numbers, league leading usage, points in the, how ridiculous it is to have 21.5 points in the paint per game and not be a center. Like that's just outrageous.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Anthony Davis is second in points in the paint with 18 per game. And that's still a lot. He's averaging 30 points, 13 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 3.3 blocks, 2 steals, and 66.5 DraftKings points across 35 minutes. And it's like, you could look at that and be like, yeah, that's sustainable. So Adam made a point yesterday, and I agreed that I think you could maybe throw Westbrook into this category, but outside of Giannis, like Davis is really the only one with that like legit ceiling that could be attained every game. And I know you'll say, what about Harden? What about Durant? What about Curry? What about, they're all amazing. But the thing that Davis and Giannis, and I will throw Westbrook in there just because of the rebounding and everything else that they do that others don't, is their contributions in every single category are elite.
Sorry. I got caught up in Slack.
Oh, that's all right.
They're really still roasting him.
Are they?
Yeah.
Let me rephrase what I said.
And he is back now too, in case you noticed.
Oh, is he?
Welcome back, sir.
All right, Adam. Okay.
I saw Billy Montgomery and thought I was in the wrong room.
Ricardo had the greatest response. So you were getting roasted. Your internet was getting roasted in YouTube chat, and Ricardo said that your name should be changed to "Ship My New Router DFS." So if you drop off next show, you have to change it, even in Slack. No, how about change your Twitter handle for a week to "Ship My New Router DFS"? Would you do it?
Yeah.
You will? Okay. Now I'm hoping you fall off, even though it's not good for the show. Anyway, what I was saying is you and I talked about, I actually brought up a point that you made, that Giannis and Davis are the only two guys that, and maybe we can include Westbrook, that have that really true ceiling because they contribute elite numbers in every single fantasy relevant statistical category.
Yeah,
we're talking about the Pelicans Brooklyn game, by the way.
Yeah, I assume. And it's a great spot for Davis to basically dominate every single category that we care about. It's a spot for him to get a bunch of blocks. It's a spot for him to get a ton of rebounds, score a bunch of points. He's right up there with Giannis, as my two highest scoring players on the slate. I talked this morning about, and on the podcast last night, about wanting two of Giannis, Davis, and Paul in every lineup. I'm backing off that a bit as other plays have become so good throughout the day. But I still want a ton of Anthony Davis here.
Yeah, me too. Let me backtrack for a second. We have the Knicks lineup. It is Ntilikina, Hardaway, Dotson, Vonleh, and Robinson, which is kind of funny. You replace Cantor with another guy who's 7'1".
Yeah, I didn't expect them to start both of them together, so that's interesting. But it's kind of nice because that doesn't change my projections at all.
Both of who together?
Robinson and Vonleh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you have Dotson at the 3, Hardaway at the 2. Circle back just quickly. What do you do here? Do you have any interest in a Mitchell Robinson or obviously Ntilikina we discussed, Dotson's at the 3, Vonleh at the 4. Any interest here?
Yeah, so I my guess is that Cantor's coming off the bench. Have we seen anything about if he's just not playing or what?
I mean, he's got to play, but he's gonna come off the bench, right? Like, why would he not play?
Because he's a massive defensive liability. But yeah, okay. So
Yeah, of
what?
course.
Yeah. So I would think that you get something like 22 to 24 minutes from Cantor, which to me makes him not really playable at his price on the slate. But Robinson probably like 18 to 22 minutes at 3,100 seems pretty nice. Vonleh probably around 26 minutes. I think is pretty reasonable as well. Yeah, so I certainly have interest in $3,100 Robinson.
Yeah, John Schumann, by the way, NBA stats. This guy, the list that I posted in YouTube, it's my NBA list. It takes I think maybe 15 accounts and puts them all together. Nothing crazy. You don't need a list of 1,000 beat writers anymore because everything's just placed into one spot. But he's the advanced stats writer for NBA.com. He said Knicks have allowed 117 points on 90 possessions, 130 per 100 with Dotson and Hardaway on the floor this season. So that's really, 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 really bad. That's a really bad number. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, Mitchell Robinson, I mean, it is what it is. And the thing too is I don't know what makes them think that he's going to make a big difference. We'll see. But you don't have interest in him, correct?
In who?
Mitchell Robinson.
I do at 3,100. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you say your minute projection was?
18 to 22.
Okay. I guess that's fair. Yeah. He's so cheap, but I feel like I don't know. We'll see. I thought you'd just get more Vonleh at the 5 and go super small here. We'll see. It's the Knicks. Who the hell knows? All right, let's speed it up a bit. New Orleans and Brooklyn here. We talked about Giannis. Basically, the question is Davis or Giannis for you?
I have Giannis projected for 2 more points, but I think it's absolutely splitting hairs, and I'm just gonna probably have 40% of both or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Elfrid Payton, it's interesting. I talk a lot about touches. He leads the team in touches, which to me is interesting for one reason. That even though Anthony Davis is on this team and you have Randall and Mirotic and Holiday, Payton has still leads them in potential assists and touches, and he's playing 32 minutes per game. He's the type of guy that offers that low end triple double upside each night, like the 10-10-10 upside, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, basically like what we almost got from Westbrook last night for twice the price tag.
Right. But I don't think Payton's I don't think he's a crazy play. Just going forward, if you're going to get him sub 7K, seeing an Elfrid Payton game of 12, 9, and 9 with 3 steals, that's not going to hurt you at all. So keep that in mind going forward, that he still has a lot of involvement. We were asked if I worry about blowouts. I always have blowout concerns, but I don't let it dictate how I play because if you start worrying about blowouts, then you put yourself in a rough spot and you lose out on a lot of good spots as well. So yeah, this game's a little bit concerning, but what's funny? Brooklyn is allowing the lowest field goal percentage at the rim this season, and they have been blocked the second fewest times of any team. So that works against Davis, but they also haven't really faced any players of his caliber or even close because there aren't many of them in the league like Davis, and he just does so much everywhere that against an undersized front court, he should ravage them.
Yeah, and I have Davis, Holiday, Mirotic, Payton, and Randall all doing really well from a point per dollar standpoint. But I most likely am going to limit this to one Pelican per team, just because they're all expensive enough that for them, if they hit their true ceiling, I doubt two guys are doing it, and that the game's staying competitive. And even
Correct.
if it does stay competitive, I know that I'm not going to have enough Brooklyn, so
Exactly.
I'm going to just play one of them probably.
I don't think Jared Allen's crazy. If there was one guy, I think he's fine. He's looked good. He's done a good job protecting the rim, and he hasn't gotten in really any foul trouble, which is a nice thing to see. But obviously not a necessary play, and it's hard to really love any of those guys. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, like I think Allen and LeVert and even Russell are all fine. It's just that if I were to end up with like 40% Davis and 40% like Drew Holiday or something, and a bunch of it's together, I'm just putting myself in a position where to maximize like my investment for the night, I'm going to need guys on Brooklyn to have big games, and I'm not going to have enough of them to make it work. So I'm going to just play one Pelican per lineup probably.
For sure. All right, let's close it out here. Chris Spags and Fast Eddie Fear coming up live before lock after this. And I just say it one more time. Appreciate you fellas. Hit us with some likes. Let's get this over 100, please. Let's do it. Let's get this over 100. And put in that work for us. We'll keep producing these free YouTube shows each and every day. All right, last one we got Washington and Sacramento. I mentioned on Twitter today, again, most people don't care, but I think it's cool. With Mahinmi at center, Washington averages a pace of 105. With Markieff Morris at center, they average a pace of 120. Adam, that difference is so ridiculously dramatic, I can't even explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I've seen so far, Beal missed shoot around and Mahinmi was there. So I'm assuming
Right.
Mahinmi plays. I also don't think he plays big minutes. I have him around 20 minutes tonight, and then Washington going small behind them. So I still think that if Beal or Mahinmi miss, I think you get a bunch of minutes still for Jeff Green. Obviously, Markieff Morris and Porter. Austin Rivers, I think, gets around 30 if Beal misses. So you can certainly go to Washington value here. I especially like Jeff Green at 3,900. Then the big thing, though, is that since 2016, without Beal on the floor, Wall has a 40% usage rate. Basically, no matter who else you put on the floor with him, he has about a 40% usage rate. He has an assist percentage over 50%. He just ends up being one of the best plays on the slate if Beal misses. And he's a good enough play if Beal plays that, like, because it's going to be tough to late swap him to someone else of his caliber if Beal's in. But at 8,500, it's not like I think he's a bad play even if Beal plays. So I'm still going to end up having a lot of John Wall.
Yeah, me too. If Beal is out, John Wall's a great play. By the way, Beal has only played 9 minutes without Wall this year, but he's actually been awesome even with Wall on the court. His assist rate's almost 30%. So think about how much of an impact that has on Wall if Beal is out.
Yep.
Because Beal is not deferring anymore at all. So yeah. Real quickly, if Beal is out, what are you doing? Satoransky, Rivers, Jeff Green, go. We got to make it quick.
Yeah, I have Green at 28 minutes if Beal's out. I have Oubre at 28 minutes. I have Rivers at 30 minutes. Those are all kind of rough guesses, but I think they're in the ballpark.
And would you agree, Sacramento, the front court's kind of a mess, but if Mahinmi plays, it's probably Willie Cauley-Stein that you're looking at?
Yeah, I like Cauley-Stein, and I think Bagley's decent. I could see Bagley getting like 26 minutes here with a combination of a few extra minutes at the 5 and a few extra minutes at the 3.
All right, and I'll say if Mahinmi's out, I think Bjelica actually is in one of the best positions of them all. None of them must plays. All right, here we go. Let's rapid fire. Top point guards, go. Top 3.
Chris Paul, John Wall, Kemba Walker.
Okay, same with me. That's very nice. I think Elfrid Payton's interesting as well. Brogdon, if you need some value. Shooting guard, Bradley Beal probably. It looks like he's not going to play. I love him if he does play, but if he doesn't play, give me Gerald Green as a value. I think Jeremy Lamb's in there as well, and Batum and Drew Holiday to mix in. Go.
Levine, Holiday, Eric Gordon, Okogie for value.
All right, small forward.
Giannis, Jabari Parker, where he's eligible. I really like Mirotic a lot as well.
Yep, Giannis for sure, Jabari Parker, and I guess I'll throw Melo in there, even though
also Gerald Green. Sorry, Gerald Green.
Joe, yeah. I mentioned him at shooting guard, but both positions. Power forward, give me Anthony Davis, Montrezl Harrell, and who do you have?
Davis, Keith, Harrell.
And center?
Capella, Towns, Carter.
Yeah,
Valanciunas.
I have to throw Towns in. It makes me sick to my stomach. Okaji, by the way, if whatever happens with Minnesota, get him in there. And Derrick Rose as well. 2 really great value options. We'll keep our eye on that. Eddie and Chris will do that for you right now. I'll throw Capella, Joe Val in there, and Wendell Carter Jr. because he's cheap. Good luck tonight. Hit us with a like. Hit us with a follow. And check us out on awesomemode.com. We will see you back here on Monday, Adam and myself on the Deeper Dive. Peace.